Ooh. Yeah, that's it right there. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is not a video that I was really prepared to make. So my 2015 turbocharged Subaru BRZ is pretty much dead. Well, not dead exactly, but it's making a terrible knocking sound. So for some background, Sunday night, it's currently Wednesday, so Sunday night I was on my way back from visiting some family down in Colombia, and I'm just sitting on the interstate, and there's this 350Z, this like very stock looking 350Z that absolutely will not leave me alone. If I'm sitting in the right lane, he's sitting in the left lane, and he's like speeding up a little bit and then slowing down, and speeding up a little bit, slowing down. So like I can tell that this guy is like trying to race me, or he just wants me to do a pull or something. And at the time I was just like, I'm not feeling it. So I'm just sitting there minding my own business, cruise control on, no issues at this point. And he just keeps doing it. He just keeps egging me on. He'll speed up and get ahead of me a little bit, and then he'll slow way down and basically sit right next to me. And then, I'll like have to, slow down to pass a car on the right-hand lane. And then he'll get over into the right hand and sit right next to me in the right hand lane, doing the exact same thing where he'll speed up a little bit, then he'll slow down, and speed up and slow down. And it's not like he was like had his interior light on and like giving me signals like he wanted to race. He was literally just doing this back and forth. It was super annoying for like 15 miles. It was a long time he was doing this. Like he was adamant about racing me, I guess. And so at one point I was just like, all right, dude, whatever, I'll do a pull for you, and then hopefully you'll just leave me alone. So I'm cruising in sixth gear. I downshift to fifth, I downshift to fourth, and I look over at him to like, are you gonna give me a signal? Are you gonna honk? And he doesn't do anything because this guy clearly has no idea what he's doing. He doesn't know how street racing works. And so I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm sitting in fourth gear at like 6,000 RPM. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going then. And so I wide open throttle. I'm doing a pull. I go from fourth up to fifth, up to sixth, and I give him a pretty good gap because my BRZ makes about 300 at the wheels, and this is a very stock 350Z. So I give him a pretty good amount of space. I don't know if he was trying. I don't know if he wasn't. I have no idea what this dude's deal was. But, so then I start to slow down, and he seems content with the result, I guess. So he speeds off and finally leaves me alone. And then not too long after that, I start to notice kind of a rattly sound, kind of like a knocking sound coming from the engine bay. And it was obviously concerning. The engine didn't cut off, thankfully, while I was on the interstate. I was able to make it the next like 20 miles down the interstate until I needed to take my exit. But once I got off the interstate, the first stoplight I pulled up to, as soon as I stopped the car, it cut off, check engine light, would not start back up. And so I had to, put my hazards on, push it off the side of the road, just onto a side road, and then try to, build up enough momentum to be able to, crank the wheel and steer it into a parking spot at a dentist's office. And then, there's a whole debacle around me trying to talk to them, like, please don't tow my car, like I'm gonna come get it. But that's a whole nother thing. But what I noticed, what's funny about it, is that it doesn't seem like it's rod knock. It doesn't seem like it's coming from the engine, because the check engine light that it threw, the code, there were like 10 different codes for crankshaft position sensor. And I've seen this before, I've heard of the crankshaft position sensor go wrong before. If you guys are familiar with TJ Hunt, whenever he had his, years and years ago, whenever he was like first making some solid power on his supercharged BRZ, he had a bunch of issues with the crankshaft position sensor. So I wasn't initially overly concerned. I was like, oh, okay, I mean, I'll just, buy the sensor, swap it in, and I think I should be good to go. So the next day, and this was like 11 o'clock at night, mind you. So I managed to roll it into a parking spot at like 11 or 11:30 at night, and I get an Uber back to my apartment. Fortunately, it was less than like 5 miles to get back to my apartment, so not too big of a deal. I catch an Uber, and then the next morning, I'm trying to figure out what to do. I thought I was going to be able to get the part and replace it in their parking lot, but they were like, no, we don't want you doing that. I mean, I understand that. So I call a tow truck company. They pull it out of there and they drop it right here at the front of my apartment. And fortunately, I have my motorcycle, so I can still get around town as long as it's not like raining or anything. So I call up a bunch of different parts stores and try and figure out like if anybody has this crankshaft position sensor. And fortunately, AutoZone had one in stock. So I hop on the bike, go just a couple miles down the road to AutoZone to get a new one, and I already swapped the new one in there, and it made almost no difference at all. So here's the old one. It's a little bit hard to see here. It has just one, I believe it's a 10 mil bolt that holds it into place, and then you have your connector that obviously feeds to the ECU. But this metal part on the tip here, that is your actual sensor, and it is essentially magnetic. What this does is I'll show you on the car. All right, so we're in the engine bay. The thing that makes this a little bit different for me than from a lot of people is that because I have an aftermarket turbo kit, I've got my vacuum lines that run right here that you guys can see. I actually still have this unbolted. So this is just a little 12 millimeter bolt that I had to take off, and then I was able to pull this vacuum hose line out of the way so that I could get to where this sensor goes in. So essentially what we're looking at here is that this right here is the point where the two halves of the block come together. There's a little bit of a line that's like, your separation point. It's a little bit hard to tell, but it is what it is. So once I pulled this here vacuum line out of the way, I was able to it's really tough to get to. So it's underneath this, and it's down in there, kind of in this kind of a configuration. So this plugs into a hole in the block, basically. And then, getting at this little 10 mil bolt is a huge pain. But anyway, so this goes into a little hole in the block this way. You screw it in and it goes like this. And what this sensor detects is there is a disc on the engine side of the flywheel. It spins around and it has little teeth on it. And so the teeth are what this magnet that this sensor actually detects as it's spinning around while the engine's running. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this or not, but there is a slight hole right at the back of the block, right here. I'm pointing at it. It's basically just a black space right here. And you can see into there that disc with the teeth on it. So replacing this sensor did not help. There's something still knocking down in here inside the engine, or inside the transmission flywheel area. The way that this sound was being produced while I was on the interstate before the car died, and the fact that all of the check engine codes that came on were crankshaft position sensor, leads me to believe that the disc, that disc with the teeth on it that the sensor detects, that disc could be out of alignment and is making contact with something inside the bell housing of the transmission. And that's what the knock is coming from, I believe. I hope. But I replaced the sensor with a new one. I disconnected the battery to try and make sure that it would detect that as a new sensor. I reloaded the tune on the ECU. I've done everything within a reasonable amount of investigation without, pulling the transmission. But at this point, I think it's gonna have to go to a shop. I don't really have the tools, the space, or the time to be able to pull this transmission and pull the clutch and pull the flywheel to get at this little toothed disc, because of the fact that this is my only car. If this was not my daily, and I had, because I've been wanting to get a truck for a while, if I already had a second car, I could leave this thing in the garage and just kind of pick around with it, try and pull the trans on my own, try and get the clutch and the flywheel out, and then try and replace that disc by myself. But because this is my only car, and like I can get to work on my motorcycle as long as it's not raining or anything, like I think it's gonna have to go to a shop. So let me see if I can start the engine up, as much as it is gonna pain me. I've been able to get it started with the new sensor a couple of times now, but it doesn't make me feel good. So let me see if I can get this thing cranked up for you guys. Ooh. Yeah. That's it right there. All right, so that's it. I really don't want to run the engine any longer than that, but it could be rod knock, which if it is, then that's, catastrophic in terms of my bank account. But I'm stumped at this point. I don't know what else to do. I've exhausted just about as much research I can find, but I don't really know what else to say at this point. It's gonna have to go to a shop, and I'm gonna have to figure out what to do in the meantime, because I've got this thing. Yeah, I can get to work as long as the weather's not super bad or anything, but I'm in a bit of a bad spot. I'm really hoping it's just that disc in the trans, and I hope that the knocking sound is coming from the trans. But a test that I just tried was, while it was running, while I could hear that knocking sound, pushing the clutch in to try and get it to disengage so that the transmission wasn't spinning, even in neutral, just to fully disengage the whole thing. And it was still knocking. So that makes me feel like it could be engine related instead of trans related. So I don't know, I'm scared, but at the end of the day, it's all mechanical stuff. It's all just money, really. So I've been saving up to kind of do some crazy things with the car, body kits, interior stuff, seats, roll cage harnesses, big brake kit, all that, but it's got to run, right? So anyway, I'm gonna end the video here. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe if you want to see more, if you want to see the follow-up for this. But it's going to a shop either today, tomorrow, or the next day. So stick around if you want to see more, and we'll see you guys in the next one.